Bonjour, Anin, hello, and welcome. I want to tell you a story. I have come here today to tell you a story. I'm really glad that you're here with me. And I want to tell a creation story. Creation stories are very interesting stories. There are a lot of different teachings embedded inside of a creation story. And so that's going to be this way today when I tell you this story. There will be numbers of things that you will learn or you'll be presented with during this story. Now, many cultures have creation stories. Probably just about every culture in the world has a creation story. As a matter of fact, many cultures, like my own, the Anishinabek people, we have a number of creation stories. And that's quite all right. Because the key thing about creation stories is that creation stories teach various kinds of values in particular to people. They teach the values and if you really want to know about a culture, if you really want to learn about a culture, study their creation stories. Because embedded in those stories are the values of the people. All those things that are held close to their hearts. So by studying these and by knowing your own, you become a much more enlightened person by doing that, by studying your stories. And in this particular case, I'm going to be giving an Anishnabek story, creation story, but we have others as well. But today I will focus on one that I know. So from there then, I would like to start the story in the way that it has been told for probably millennia. So in a time before time, when there was absolutely nothing, there was no sounds, no sights, there was no time, and there was no space. But the Creator of all things, had a vision. And that vision was very good. It was very good. So with great love and great intention, the Creator went about changing things. And so with that then, the Creator took that vision and formulated it into various elements that I'm going to tell you about. What happened in the beginning was there was a flash of light, quickly followed by a sound, by a rumbling sound, almost the sound of the drums that we use at powwows today. There was a And with that, things began to become into being. The Creator moved about and created the stars, the various stars. And those stars began to congregate in certain constellations. And at that same time, too, came the galaxies. The huge circular galaxies that we see in the sky today, the millions of planets that are orbiting around these clusters. There's many millions, trillions of galaxies in the universe. And it is interesting to notice that they do form in that kind of circle, in that spherical nature. Native people, we like to follow things that are to do with circles and cycles. And so one of the very first things that was made then was this pattern of circularity that the planets themselves, the planets, the stars, they were in a circular pattern. And not only that, these galaxies as well then were in circular patterns, following circles and cycles. And so Native people would eventually catch on to that. But this was long before the coming of even human beings. This was the beginning of the cosmos, the beginning of the universe. And so After that began to happen then, we have stars and planets circling each other, stars. The next step that the Creator took was to create grandfather sun and grandmother moon. And at that same time, another tiny star called Wabanokwe, which is a morning star. We were gifted then with a grandfather sun with that type of energy, and grandmother moon with her type of energy. And as you can see, the term grandfather and grandmother are embedded in the way that those elements are described. And there's a purpose to that, because Native people, we want to have that kind of association of being strongly connected to the environment in a very intimate way. And the most intimate way that that can be is giving something the designation of a human being or a relative. And in this case then, we have our grandparents. Our grandparents, the sun, and our grandparents, the moon. But also too, at that very same time, the Creator was wise, very wise, and created Wabanokwe, which is a very tiny star in the sky, but it's very bright. And it comes up in the mornings, even before grandfather sun comes up. Little Wabanokwe will arise, will come up. And when you see that little star, it's a sign of hope then, because when you see that Wabanokwe coming up, you know that the sun will soon be up. The sun is coming now. The Wabanokwe is an ambassador for the sun, acknowledging that the sun is coming for the day. So it's an important star because it gives us hope. It was one way that the Creator allowed hope to come into being, by creating that small, tiny star. And also pointing out to the fact too, that not everything has to be big and large. That some of the most interesting things, some of the most important things that we have in life are things that are not necessarily big and large, some things that we can't even see. Here again too though, you can see that notion of circles and cycles happening, following the physical roundness of things, but also in relation to the changes that take place, the circular patterns, the cycles that take place in our universe. So the Creator wasn't done then though. The Creator began to create the earth. The Creator created the winds, the four directions, the winds that come from the east and the south and the west and the north. And with that came the dust and the matter and the minerals that would come into being and take form and take shape into what we know of as the earth. And further from that then came water, that very special life-giving force that all of us need. And that was supplied. And further to that, the Creator created energy in the form of electromagnetic fields. We use modern terms of looking at that. But we already have seen in this story, in the beginning, there was lightning, there was thunder. That is the energy. That is energy. That's the showing of energy, the presenting of energy. And those are the things that help to create what we know of today as the earth. But, and I want you to take note that I have not mentioned the coming of human beings yet, because human beings didn't come until much later, much later. And so once the Creator had the earth formed, the Creator then began to inhabit it with various kinds of things. And one of the first things that came were the grasses of the earth. The grasses that we use again to this day as Native people. We use sweetgrass. This is a very lovely smelling, vanilla-like smelling grass. This grass was an example, or exemplified the hair of Mother Earth. And that is why too, to this day, Native people braid their hair. It's in the understanding of this story, and in following nature's way, in following what the Creator has made. And one of the first elements that came about in this form was the grasses of the earth, the sacred grasses. And when you look at a braid, it has 3 strands on it, 3 clumpings. And when you put those things together, it's the coming together of body, mind, and spirit. And it is basically a meditation by braiding that braid in body, mind, and spirit, just like this is, or just like the hair of some native peoples who still choose to braid their hair in that kind of way. It's out of respect, it's out of honor, it's out of remembrance of our grandmother moon. And the earth itself was seen and is seen even to this day as having a feminine principle to her. So the Creator went about putting the grasses down, those long flowing grasses that we see, and then the various kinds of plants, particularly medicine plants and plants for nutrition, all of those kinds of plants that would someday serve Native people in a very big way, and indeed serve all of us as human beings. And next to that, later on, the Creator went about and with great love and great intention put down the shrubberies, the bushes, the bushberries, like the bush cranberry and various other kinds of mid-sized plants, mid-sized bushes. And then eventually, the forests would begin to spring up, the cedars and the spruces and the pines, and all of those trees began to take root on this new earth. But the Creator wasn't finished there. The Creator continued to walk around, or to move around, in a way only a Creator can, and began to inhabit the earth with the swimmers. All of those kinds of animals that use the ocean and the lakes and the rivers and the ponds as places to live. So all of the swimmer type of animals, all the fishes and all of those other types of animals that live there came into being. But from there to then, the Creator began to create the crawlers, the various kinds of animals that crawl on the earth or are touching the earth in a sacred way. All those animals that move directly on Mother Earth. All of those creatures began to be put onto the earth and given a home here. And after that, then, the Creator began to put on to this earth all of those animals, the legged ones, as it's often referred to. All the creatures that have legs of various sorts, including the deer and bears and beavers and various other kinds of animals like that. And last but not least, in this realm of animals and creature beings, the Creator brought to the earth the various winged ones, all the flying animals, all those animals that use the air as their way of moving about the earth. And this was all very good, because the Creator had done this from a vision, and that vision was now being formulated. And it was being formulated in a loving way, a very loving, caring kind of way. Great love and great intention was taking place. But the story doesn't stop there, because human beings haven't been introduced yet. We know, we live here now. How did we come into being? How were we fit into this whole process? Well, the Creator began to move about again, move about the earth, and came to a spot where there was water lashing up against the rocks. You often see that on a windy day if you're near a lake or even an ocean. You will see the water churning up and hitting against the minerals, the rocks that are existent on this great earth. And so with great love and great intention, the Creator picked up some of that white foam and brought it and placed it in a mega shell. A mega shell is a tiny shell, as you can see here. It's an ocean shell. I'll show you a larger example of it. You might see this more readily. But it was a humble shell such as this that the Creator had kept and carried. And it is from this then it became the container for a number of things, a number of elements. And so one of those elements was that foam. And that white foam was placed into this shell with great love and great intention. The Creator tapped it down inside and kept on going. Later on in the day, the Creator came to a place where the sun, grandfather sun, was shining through the foliage, shining through the trees. And in that shining from grandfather sun, it shone on barks of the trees. And one of the trees that was created by the Creator was yellow birch. So this yellow birch lit up in the light from that sun. And from there, the Creator took a piece of this yellow bark, took a pinch of that yellow bark, and with great love and great intention, tapped that into the shell, very gently, but with great purpose. And from there then, the Creator continued on, moving about, moving towards the latter part of the day. And the Creator came near this place where there was a large outcropping of reddish stone. It was a cliff literally out of reddish stone. The stone such as this here. This is probably the same type of stone that the Creator picked up all those many years ago. And this became a sacred rock. It would become a sacred rock to Native people. This type of rock would be used to create sacred pipes, for example. But at that time, there was no human beings. So the Creator took some of this red rock and with great love and great intention, took chunks of it, pieces of it, and placed it into the shell very carefully and tapping it down. And then towards dusk, as things began to darken, the Creator came to this place where there was a massive amount of energy that had struck that area or had come to that area. And numbers of the plant world were burnt, including the trees. Some certain trees and some trees were blackened from a power that was created by the Creator. And so with that blackness, with that charredness then, the Creator took that and with great love and great intention sifted it into the shell, tapped it down very carefully with great love and great intention. And then the Creator took that shell and blew into it and created the first human being. And that is the creation story, or one of the creation stories of Anishinabek people. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I want to impress upon you that there is a lot of detail in there. There's a lot of information in that story for you to glean. One thing we do as Native people is when we do tell stories, we often have everybody there, even little children, teenagers, adults, elders, all there listening to these stories. So a child could listen to this story and gain something from it, or find interest in it, or find at least entertainment in it. But also to other levels of people, such as our teenagers, our young people, our adults, and the elders themselves, will continue from this, learning from this story from the time you hear it onward. And if you hear it again, the elders always say, when you go to a story, and if you go to a creation story and you're listening to a creation story, or almost what any other story as well, they often say to come to the story with new ears. Because each time you hear that story, you will learn something more. Something else will come to you with regards to this story. And that is the power of creation stories. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you continue to go about and find stories and tell stories. So I'd like to thank you for being here. And so, Bama Pete, till the next time we meet. Thank you.